Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Community Development Committee meeting for the 28th of April. I would like to check if we have any apologies for this morning.
Councillor Belsky.
If there's no further apologies,
I'm happy
the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against.
Would you like your vote recorded, Shane?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then we move to confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a mover?
I'm happy to do that.
Happy to second.
They're the minutes
Cool.
of the Community Development Committee meeting held on the 24th of February 2022 be adopted as a true and correct record.
Cool, and Her Worship seconded that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Great. Notification of late items. Are there any late items? No. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Are there any members that would like to declare a conflict of interest?
If I may, through you, Chair, no longer part of Building District's Youth Board, would like to stay in and comment, but just declaring that I was the chair for a good 6.5 odd years.
Great. I also would like to declare, I'm just trying to find the agenda item that it is associated to.
See, it's 7.5, Heather.
7.5. I was the person that applied on behalf of the Rangirohini Collie Club for the event fund. A whopping $270. So happy to stay in on the conversation there, but just noting that. Are there any other conflicts of interest? No. Okay. Sorry, it's no good having to flick between Zoom and the document. Right. I take it we haven't got our first presenter yet.
No.
Okay. Well, I'd like to move to item 7.1, the appointment of the Deputy Chairperson. And I would like to call for discussion around this.
Through you, Chair, if I may.
Yes, Councillor Casey.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to nominate Councillor Alison Short to be the Deputy Chair of the Community Development Committee. Alison brings an enormous amount of corporate historic knowledge to community development and has been a key player in many strategies and is a huge advocate for all aspects of the community. And I think she'd make an excellent deputy to support you, Heather, and continue the good work that the CDC is doing.
Thank you, and I'd like to second that.
Careful, Shane, you'll make my head grow bigger.
I
true.
completely agree also with the comments that you made, Councillor Casey. So as long as Councillor Short is happy with that, would you like to put the motion, Councillor Casey?
Sorry, I just had to close some doors around home. Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to recommend that the Community Development Committee. Oh, sorry. Do you want to use System B on this, or is that no longer appropriate for all in favour?
No, we have System B. That's fine. We have used that.
Okay, cool. I'll continue then. The Community Development Committee uses System B of Clause 25 of Schedule 7 of the Local Government Act 2002 for the election of its Deputy Chairperson, and 2, that the Community Development Committee appoints Councillor Alison Short as its Deputy Chairperson.
I'm happy to second that. Or Her Worship. All those in favour?
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Well done, Councillor Short. Great to have you as my deputy. Okay. We can't be too far away from our first presenter from Age Concern.
We don't have anyone in the room with us at the moment.
No, I see that. So I think we'll just run our usual format for these presentations, where we will have the presenter talk, and then if you have any questions, we'll just ask those at the end.
If you like, Heather, I could take you through my actual supporting report before we hear from the presenters, which will help to kill some time. So I guess through you, Madam Chair, a couple of additional reports which you haven't seen before is with Snackback Gym and Supergrands Manawatu. So they entered into a 12-month contract from 1 July of last year. So this is this first 6 months that they had to report through the RBA contract. So there are two additional ones that you will see that you haven't had before. The background and options, section 2 and 3 of the report is self-explanatory. They have all met all of their requirements. They're all reported against their results measurements, and they've highlighted where they have been lower than what they've expected in their narrative. So their reports have been presented similar to how I presented the 12-month report. So hopefully that makes it a lot easier for you to follow in regards to looking at the data that they've collected under the RBA framework and the narrative that supports the RBA. For the 6 months, they don't need to furnish any financial reports, so you haven't got them attached to the agenda. So we've managed to save a few trees with that, but although being online, we don't have to worry about that. But those that get printed copies, we've saved some trees. But other than that, the report's self-explanatory. Any questions?
Awesome. None from me, Jay. Any questions from other CDC members or staff?
No. Very straightforward, Chair.
We've currently got our priority services applications open. They close on Saturday. We're receiving a number of new applications as well as from existing people that we've got within contracts. So that's going to make the assessment panel's job that much harder. So welcome to the team, Alison, as the newly appointed Deputy Chairperson. We're meeting on Monday, the 10th of May. About a 9th of May. And that's from 11 o'clock through till 2. So we'll have a working lunch, so it'll be here in the committee room at Council. Yeah, just we go on to the next one. Let's see the priority.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, we can continue with the agenda until presenters arrive.
Okay, so that would put us at 7.2. Is that where you'd be wanting to head, Steph?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, just before that, Janine, do we have Marian's contact details? Because I could ring her while we're going through other parts of the agenda to see if she's...
Yep, I'll just send her an email, but which she's generally pretty good with emails.
Okay. That's fine. As we were.
Okay, so if we are all ready to go, I'm happy to move to agenda item 7.2, priority services contract, 6-monthly accountability reports on page 15 of our agendas. Jay, did you want to talk to this?
Through you, Madam Chair, we received 5 accountability reports for the period, 2 representative fund accountability reports and 3 event fund. It's actually great to see that some of those events were able to be held and some of them were held.
Oh, sorry, Jay, I introduced the wrong one. If you want to talk about that one. Sorry, everyone, we're on page 21, the funding accountability reports. Keep going, Jay, sorry.
It's all right. So it was good to see that those events were able to be held under the web traffic light system with success, particularly the Best of Beef one with the Manawatu and West Coast Association, which was held in January. So you'll be able to see from the reports that they were all successful. Attached to the reports were a copy of the checklist with the decision so that you could get further information in regards to the application and the decision-making process. So unless anyone has any questions?
No questions from me, probably more so just a comment around that. And I was speaking to a single mum who was whose son received one of our representative grants last year, and I spoke to her in the weekend, and for her, just the difference that representative grant made for her and her family was significant, and for such a small amount of money, a drop in the ocean for council's budget as a whole. It was really special to hear the difference that made for her, and having 2 boys and working full-time, I mean, it's pretty hard. So it's really cool that we can do that as a council and provide the opportunity for kids to go and represent the Manawatu in their chosen sports and events. So were there any other discussion points? Otherwise, I'm happy to move, sorry, I've just got to find it, move the recommendation that the Community Development Committee receives and notes the following 5 accountability reports, 2 representative fund accountability reports and 3 event fund accountability reports. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Casey, all those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Great. We now move down to the page 45 of our agendas, the Community Development Strategy Relationship and Liaison Report. Another one for you, Jay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've had minutes from our Regional Integrated Network. What you won't see, because they haven't come through, is that they had a workshop that was held a couple of weeks ago on housing, which involved representatives from each of the TLAs in the region, but also from some of our core central government agencies, and iwi representatives were there, and they spoke about the item was for iwi to give an idea to the TLAs as well as central government agencies what they would like to see in the way of housing for their people. And so that was actually quite an interesting exercise to have gone through, and it's given the Regional Integrated Network a bit of an idea on how the iwi firstly themselves are looking at housing as an organisation and as an iwi, as well as how the TLAs are looking at housing and how central government agencies. So the idea is to combine all of those into the strategic document that the Regional Integrated Network are currently working on. So they've picked 3 priorities for the Regional Integrated Network, which is housing, mental health, and the 3rd one is youth. So they're the 3 priorities. So each of those will be having some specific topics workshops involving certain areas within the network. So the other one that just brings your attention is that I was recently invited to sit on the Manawatu Community Trust Wellbeing Committee, and so you will see the first minutes of that meeting that I attended. We have had another meeting since then, so those minutes will come through to your June. But other than that, if Councillor Short was wanting to give an update on the Manawatu Health and Wellbeing Group.
We've only had one meeting this year. The next one is 9th of May, I think it is. And last time it was really when we were dealing with knowing that the peak of COVID was coming and agencies were updating what was happening, particularly the Health Centre and Ngāti Kaupata, and the responses that they were giving, which have all worked completely to plan. And I've heard a lot of good feedback from the community, from those who have had COVID, how well supported they have felt. And other than that, we only meet quarterly, so our next meeting is another 10 days away.
Any further discussion from Her Worship or Councillor Casey?
I'd just like to support what Councillor Short said. I think Iwi's done an excellent role in the health space and making people feel comfortable about going to get vaccinations, etc. So yeah, I just big shout out to them.
I guess just from my perspective as the chairperson, having Councillor Short appointed as the deputy, I think your contacts in that health and wellbeing group is really going to be helpful for me as the chairperson. Having you in as deputy would be awesome. So I think that's great. Would anyone else like to move the motion?
Are we going to look at the other reports, the SINCOS as well?
Yep, sure.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I think Marion from Age Concern is now available, or hopefully she's on Zoom to present.
Yes.
Hello. Kia ora. Can you hear me?
We can, Marion. Great to have you along.
Thank you. First of all, I apologise for being late. It's been a week and I got caught up in something else, so I'm really sorry. I haven't anything to present, but you've been funding our accredited visiting service, which we really appreciate. Yesterday, I had a letter from a woman who's 69, who's one of the clients in the accredited visiting series. She had accredited visiting service. She was very depressed when she contacted Age Concern, and she lost her friends and for various reasons. Anyway, we found her a volunteer, and she said she so much looks forward to this volunteer coming. She doesn't have a car. The volunteer takes her out for a coffee and lunch sometimes. It's the highlight of the week. And the volunteer is also able to take her to appointments if the volunteer has free time, and will stay with her to keep her company. And that is from a Fielding resident. So I think that speaks for itself. So yes, the value of the service from the people who use it really appreciate it. The other thing is with our Staying Safe program Steady As You Go program that runs out of St John's Hall. What people tell us is, as much as getting the physical benefit, it's the social connection, and they go out for coffee afterwards, and during the lockdowns they keep in contact with one another. So again, it's the social connection as much as the physical activity. So thank you very much for your support, and I apologise for being late. And I'm very sorry, Your Worship, and thank you for agreeing to see me.
Thank you for coming along, Marion, and thank you for the great work you're doing in our community. Did I take it you're open for questions?
Yes,
Are there any
questions?
Councillor Short.
Just more of a comment, actually. Hello, Marion.
Hi.
Many of the social and health meetings that I go to, social isolation of elderly is of great concern to many, many agencies, both rurally and in town. So I think the service that you're offering is particularly needy at the moment. And just wondering, have you got enough volunteers, or is it also a bit hard to recruit people under COVID conditions at the moment as well?
I think, yeah, it's definitely finding volunteers. One thing that happened last year when everybody had to be double vaccinated, all our staff and volunteers at Age Concern Palmerston North had to be double vaccinated. And because the volunteers in the accredited visiting service are integral to that service. And so we did lose a couple of volunteers. We've also, there was a reduction in face-to-face visiting, but the volunteers have been good at keeping in touch via phone. Some people of our clients are deaf, have a hearing impairment, so that makes phoning very difficult. So what some volunteers did was have text conversations with their clients to keep in touch with them. And that's the value of the visiting service. But yes, it works both ways. Volunteers get concerned about going and visiting an older person, and this has been noted during Omicron, because they say, I don't want to take the COVID infection into some, because now you can have COVID and you display no symptoms. There is a concern from some people. Similarly, there's a concern from older people, but generally the relationship between the accredited visiting service client and the volunteer is very strong, and so they want to continue to meet. So that's really good. And also with the exercise group, we recommended at the end of February, when Omicron was increasing, that the group stopped meeting, but they wouldn't take our advice. They carried on because they said this is more beneficial for us to get out and do the exercise and meet other people than to stay at home for this period. So that's the sort of strength of the relationships that build up in the exercise group. So yeah.
Her Worship.
Thank you. Thanks, Marion. I just want to endorse the comments that Councillor Short made, but and just a big thank you to you, and please pass it on to your volunteers, because as we know, the mental health is a real issue through this whole COVID thing, anxiety, and we're still seeing that from some of our older residents. You know, they're not sure whether they should go out or whether it's okay to have people, and you know, even go out and have coffee with their friends. But I just thank you and your team for what you've done and how you've adapted during the COVID. And, you know, it is ongoing, albeit it's reduced. But yeah, just can't thank you enough for the work that you do in our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Marion.
Thanks. Bye.
Hi.
Next.
No.
Yep, I'll just put discount.
Sorry, I'm just scrolling back up.
You talk to us now. Yeah, Neil does just come through.
Great. So
So we've got Neil Duff that's just joining us from the Fielding Community Patrol.
great. Good morning, Neil. Thank you for coming along to present to us this morning. It just says connecting to audio. Is your technology working?
There we go. Should be able to hear you now.
Are you saying anything, Neil?
You there?
Yes.
Whoa, whoa! I think we got lift off.
Hey, great to have you here this morning, Neil. Happy for you to take it away. Let us know what you've been up to, and we can, if there's any questions at the end of your presentation, we can fire those to you then.
Okay, good one. Kia ora. Good morning to you guys. Now I've got to find my report. Where is it? Here we go. It's pretty much as I set out in the narrative reporting. In challenging times, the patrol, I think, is managing pretty well. It did rely on a core group of 20 members, but we've increased that to about 24 now, and momentum is under, and we've increased it to 24. But at the same time, a number of people are left, so we're more than holding our own. The number of events have been able to attend as our patrol has been reduced by COVID type stuff. So that's had a little effect. The patrol has changed quite a bit since the end of last year. We've got new members on board, we've got a new committee, and there's a lot more enthusiasm, I think, to push forward and change a few things. One of the only things at the moment is Fielding is very quiet at the moment. I don't know if you've driven around on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Sunday night, where you could shoot a shotgun around Fielding and you wouldn't hit anyone. There's just sort of no one around. So we're patrolling, but you know, it's not as though you're putting on your flak jacket and going out there. It's quite quiet. The goals we set ourselves, they weren't goals, what were they called? Those things we set ourselves, those performance measures. I think we've sort of snuck ahead of where we should be with those, so we're quite pleased with that. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. I was interested that you said it was quiet, because other feedback we're getting from the community, and perhaps it's not during the evenings, is that especially when school was on but a lot of kids were away, there's quite a lot of restless youth hanging around the town and getting up to a bit of mischief. There's been a number of going around in groups and hassling people and damaging things. I was just interested when you said how quiet it was.
Oh yes, yeah. Maybe it's a timing thing, because in reality, most of our patrolling is done between 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock, or 8 o'clock and 11:30, and maybe the action with teenagers and spray cans and all this kind of thing, maybe it happens after that timing. But yeah, interesting point. It would be a good point to bring up at our next committee meeting. Yeah, I don't mean most patrollers aren't keen to go out in the early hours of the morning, but yeah, maybe some things. We have put a number of signs around all the schools saying that patrollers are active in the area. Mind you, I don't think they're having so much trouble with schools as such, maybe, are they?
No, it was more parks and things, I think, where the issues were.
Yeah, parks.
Well, like, including the skate park.
Yeah. Well, I'll make a note of that because we've got a meeting in a couple of weeks, and normally if an area's been identified, it's put on briefings, and that's what forms the taskings of what we have to look at. So yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Another one, and I'll just comment on that we have been talking about a little bit, particularly Helen and I who live rurally, is the car enthusiasts. Now, they probably don't cause a lot of trouble in town, but out in our rural areas, they've got a few favourite spots. And sometimes they go through town in a line of them and they've got flags out of the car, etc. So do watch out for those. They're probably heading out into the country to create mayhem in one area or another, along Helen's Road or down my road.
What's your road?
So they the hot spot out our way is the corner of Markino Road and Short Road. Right. But when they come in a large group, like there could be as many as 50 people there, and the police won't come because they simply haven't got the resources. They'd need to send something like 6 or 10 officers, and they just haven't got that. Yes, yeah. I know you see, I drive around the country areas quite a bit, especially up Rangatira way towards there, and some intersections are just a massive rubber, aren't they? Yeah, they've got a favourite one down there, down Kaimatarao way. Yes, yeah. Well, I'm in Combolton Road here, opposite Simon Street, and often there's a few here at sort of 2 o'clock in the morning. You see around. So I'll make a note of that as well. Hoons and cars.
Chair, if I could just add to that too, thank you, Neil, for the work that you and your team do. The other issue that we hear is ongoing, both in the city and out here, is young people breaking in and stealing cars. So I'm also interested in the comment that you say how quiet it is. It makes you wonder, and that these are young people, 13, 14, they're young teens. And so I'm interested, what sort of hours they're out at night if your team aren't seeing any of this.
Yeah, that's a point we could raise at our next committee meeting. I know Neighbourhood Watch put out a very good briefing, don't they, of cars that have been stolen in different areas or broken into, and I'm always amazed at how many there are. Yeah, that'd be interesting to know exactly. You can't really ask them, I suppose, but what hours they prefer to operate in. Stolen cars, I don't know why people don't just get those steering wheel locks, but still. Yeah, that's interesting. And that just sort of raises a point, Helena, but I suppose that things that you discuss as a council, who do they go to? Because some of these we don't hear at the patrol.
Well, it's certainly discussed. I discuss it regularly with the police, and as Councillor Short said, we've been working together with the other neighbouring councils around the boy racer issue. Yes. And we've got it on a topic for an agenda coming up with our regional chiefs, with all the mayors and CEs of the region. Yes. Is there any bright ideas or initiatives of how we might do this? And I know Alan McLean from the police he's working on some really good ideas. He's connected with a couple of these groups, and he's trying to build a relationship with them to see how we might be able to help them. So it's usually through the police that we have these conversations.
Okay, I'll raise it at our meeting we've got a police liaison officer, but I don't think sometimes we hear all the feedback with regards to some of the issues that have been raised.
That'd be great, thank you.
I mean, interesting with boy racers, because I don't think I know a couple of ex-pupils who I think are, but they're not bad people, but yeah, it's interesting. Now, in terms of last couple of minutes, members drive we're happy with. We're funding for a new car at the moment. We've made a few applications, so we're looking at spending 30,000 on a new vehicle. I think our present vehicle is worth 10,000, so we're trying to make up the 20. Funding that we get from council and generally from private businesses, which we've increased the number of private businesses that make a monthly donation to the patrol. A lot of that goes into the funding for that regular maintenance and petrol, which of course is more expensive than it was. And we do quite a bit of driving out to rural areas, but maybe actually more so the schools. So the path we take to the schools mightn't be the path where boy racers congregate, but still. So, and we're very appreciative of your funding, very appreciative. And yeah, anything else? We right, or?
Doesn't look as though there's anything further from the committee there, Neil. So thank you for coming in this morning. We really appreciate your time and what you guys are doing in the community.
Hey, look, and thank you for that feedback. And I will, I've written it down here. I'll drag it along to the next meeting. And hey, congratulations, guys. This is my first Zoom call and it's gone quite well.
Awesome. Well done. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, bye.
So next up we have have we got the Building and District Youth Board here this morning?
Yes, Ian's there. Ian Marie.
Awesome. Good morning, guys. Welcome to our Community Development Committee meeting. We just sort of structure it that you give a wee presentation, and then if there's any questions, we ask them at the end.
Okay, so just going off on our report we submitted in February around where we're currently at and how we're progressing. We have a new coordinator in place. She's progressing really well. Apologies from her today. She has a family funeral to go to. She has 12 cases on the go. 2 of those are from currently from school, North Street School referral. We've just done the training for panel members last night, and we are progressing towards an agreement. We're going to start off with 2 of the schools to start off with, using the agreement that we actually formulated with police as a foundational document. And Ian might want to jump in as well, but that's currently where we're at. We're still following our business plan. We've got some ideas around rebranding. Any further down the track, it'll be something like a website. And we are also looking at developing a community web where we'll link into, and it's those community groups that we use for our case management process. Do you want to jump in, Ian, or to add?
Kia ora everybody, my name's Ian Harvey, Chair of the Fielding District Youth Board. Look, we're really excited about our new coordinator in place. She is settling in really well. We had a training last night of the panellists, so we had 16 panellists which we're developing, and I guess our main thrust now is to try and be more integrated with the community. And the thing that I was really pleased with last night with the panellists was the amount of diversity. So great range of ages, different sectors, ethnic mix. We are light on the board with Māori members, and we are really pushing for that. And so that's one of the thrusts. But the board is new and inexperienced in that but we've got the likes of Marie who has got the experience, and on the panelists we've got a mix of newbies and experience as well. So I think the morale is pretty good, and we just need to get the flow of cases coming through. It is taking time to get that coming through, and Alan, who we working with the police, is been called away a lot at the moment, so it's taking a while to get momentum, but it's definitely gathering. Yeah.
Yeah, we police at the moment is struggling because we're short, and especially with COVID, where staff have gone off with COVID, we're having to fill positions. So he's been dragged on to doing a lot more frontline work in our teams. But he is still connecting with Ashley, and Shirley often will back up as well. So even though some of those cases, you know, the flow has been slow, but the flow of those cases actually has been of a good quality, and the outcomes that we're getting and you know, achieving is far better than we actually had before. And the changes that we've actually made to the case management process, so each time after a case conference is actually completed, an evaluation is not done, not just you know, with the people that the whānau and the tamariki that's gone through our process. It's also evaluating the actual case conference and talking to those volunteers, those members on that case conference. You know, how did they feel the process went? Where do they think changes should be made? And that's how we're going to make some more improvements to that process to make sure it's streamlined and we're doing it in the right way, and it's really, really respectful towards the families and the community within the communities that we actually engage with.
I see Councillor Casey has his hand up. Are you open to questions?
Yeah,
sure are. You go for it, Jane.
Hey, no worries. G'day, Marie. Hey, just want to say congratulations on the appointment of a new coordinator, and a really good effort around the 16 for the panel. It was always a battle finding right people for panels and stuff. And it completely acknowledged too that the police are well-meaning, but they are so spread thin, aren't they? So yeah, and good to hear that there's 12 cases there as well, because we're just talking about youth crime before. And I know that the Feilding District Youth Board do a great job in restoring that youth justice component, so well done. Yeah, just want to say a big congratulations.
Thank you.
I see
Madam
our
Chair.
mayor's got her hand up.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Sorry, it's hard on Zoom and also in the meeting. Thank you. I just wanted to also congratulate you, Ian, and Adam Decker for picking this up, and Laurelie, for picking this up and refreshing it. I think that's great. I've met Ashley, your new coordinator, really impressed, and being from local iwi, I think that's really important. She will be able to connect really well into the community. I like some of the direction that you're talking about, getting the youth board much better known into the community, and you know, really putting the profile out there about what is it that you offer and how people can access that service. So so well done. I'm looking forward to seeing what that your new business plan will look like.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. If there's no further questions, thank you for coming along today. I think the youth board's definitely heading in a very positive direction, and it's exciting to hear the changes that are being made and what you're achieving so far. So thank you for that, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I see we have had Hamatangi Beach Patrol on for a wee while now, so it's finally your guys' turn to have it, to let us know what you've been up to, and you've obviously heard the drill. You let us know what you've been up to, and we'll have some questions at the end.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morning, everybody. I'd like to start, I guess, by saying that we had our AGM Tuesday night when the current or the outgoing committee stood down and a new committee was elected. So on that basis, I have with me the outgoing coordinator, Renee Vanderweer, and the incoming coordinator, Dave Jack. So it will be Dave that you'll be dealing with from now on, but with Renee's support, of course. The patrol continues small and perfectly formed. We're recruiting as hard as we can. We lost 2 members. We gained 2 members in October last year, which was really good because we were down to 6 active members. Well, 6 members altogether, but all of them were active. But unfortunately, then we lost them again to Wellington, for their employment opportunities. So at the same time, that was February. So we'd only really just got the training wheels off them, and they left. So, but we were very lucky in that at that same time, 3 more people joined us. They're still undergoing training, but are proving really willing, really able, have brought some excellent and useful skills with them. And all 3, although they haven't quite completed their 3-month probationary period, I mean, they obviously will fly through. And all 3 put up their hands for roles on the committee at the AGM, or at least if they were nominated, they didn't run screaming from the hall. So it's really good. The patrol is feeling healthy and happy and pleased with the way we're going, but desperately need more members. It's the usual story. We all know what it's like. Volunteering, it's tough. As far as what we've been doing, I imagine the same things that have impacted on every group have impacted on us. We had lockdowns and resignations and health problems and all that sort of thing. But on the whole, the patrol kept going and not much has changed around the village. The issues in the village are pretty much the same as they have always been. We too have the issues with youth vandalism, street signage being knocked down, a little bit of graffiti, not much, not even worth worrying about the graffiti problem, but damage to property, council property, nothing much, just sort of the empty sections here and the empty houses, the abandoned houses here. We call them abandoned, although apparently they still pay their rates to you. So I guess they're not entirely abandoned, but nobody ever comes to them and nobody ever does anything with them, and they're overgrown and they fester away, and the young people get in there and do whatever it is young people do, including adding to the damage and the unsightly properties. There are 2 of them on Hunia Terrace. You know about them. We keep moaning on about it. There is the issue of drug use and reports to us of a resident selling to underage youth. Unclear as to whether that's cannabis, but the person concerned is a meth user. And so we're hoping that they are not dealing meth to very young teens. Of course, it's been reported to police. We've had no feedback on that, what's happened about that. But of course, as soon as we're informed of something like that, we do 2 things. 1, report immediately to police, and 2, keep an eye on every patrol. Every patroller is advised, and every patrol keeps a very close eye on those properties where those things are happening. We've had a few one or two mental health issues called out by concerned residents to keep an eye on particular people. And again, the appropriate authorities are advised. And but in the meantime, we do what we can to keep a person who's unwell safe. And yeah, that's our involvement there. With the cars, we have the hoons. We've got the usual little group of locals who speed round the village, or just as bad, in fact, have very noisy vehicles. So you think they're speeding, but in actual fact they're not. They're just revving and jumping over the speed humps and just doing what they do for the fun of it. They love their cars and they show them off. The problem is more out-of-towners coming in, speeding round, crashing over the speed humps, stolen cars being taken down the beach, burned out and dumped. There are 2 down now at 3 Mile Creek. Yep. Yeah, 3 Mile Creek. Another much older one at Puke Creek. That seems to be the usual place. There's more that got taken up into or onto the track to the bowl, and they were dumped, and one was burned out there. Given that was in the dunes up against the forestry, a very dangerous thing to happen. Fires, Renee keeps telling me what I have to say. It's really good. He's my memory. Yeah, fires on the beach. A lot of the disorder we report to you, not disorder, property damage that we report to you in our performance measurements are fires on the beach, large and small, but in dangerous places, and then left when the people go home. So sometimes they chuck sand over it, which actually just makes the danger worse. Otherwise, they just leave them burning. Jack here is with the Himatangi Volunteer Fire Brigade. So he's going to have a foot in both camps where a lot of our work happens. So I think that's pretty good. Yeah, Dave's just said we need to say how much we appreciate the funding we receive from MDC. It's the only funding we get. We do get some donations from property owners, some of them who are absent most of the year, and we look after their properties. We do foot patrols, and one makes a donation of $10 a month for that, for every patrol that goes through every day. Another 2 have made a $100 donation and a $200 donation, but that's the only money we get, and we can't rely on it, and it has to fund everything we do, from running our vehicle and maintaining it on the road, to buying our uniforms and any other equipment, our monthly phone bills. Everything has to come out of the money that you give us and whatever donations we can raise. With regard to the Crime Prevention Camera Trust camera project, which you know Himatangi Beach is very keen to have installed, the responsibility for the fundraising has been now handed over to the community committee working with the community trust. But when the beach press closed down after the passing of J.D. Wild, they have donated $2,000 specific to the patrol into our bank account, but specifically ring-fenced for that camera project. So that's sitting there, but of course it can't be touched to run the patrol.
I might have to stop you there. I know we could listen all day to what you guys have been up to in the great work, but I think we've just got several others to get through this morning, and I'm aware of time. So thank you so much for coming on and letting us know how you're tracking there. And it's great to see the appointment of a bit of a changing of guard there, to be fair. So looking forward to seeing what that brings and hearing from you next time.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Thank you. We now move on to the Manawatu Historic Vehicle Collection Trust. Brian and Sandra.
Good morning. Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure whether you were going to unmute me or I had to do it myself. I'm learning technology slowly. Well, thank you. And again, we welcome the opportunity to come and tell you what we've been up to and how we're using the funds that we get from the District Council and how appreciative we are of that. I guess, like a lot of places that attract tourists, we've had a difficult 6 months up till December. It's improved a little bit since then, but particularly with groups coming in. But yeah, challenging through the last 6 month period. We were able to have, though, the Fantasy Lights that the Rotary Club organised, so that was quite good, and got over a couple of thousand people, I think, from there, from memory, that came through. So that was quite encouraging. So good to have those sort of things still happening. And yeah, a few groups, but since the end of December and the news reporting period, we're certainly getting a lot more groups now through, and so that's quite encouraging. But doing a few different things to try and encourage more people through. We had a car boot sale in the car park there a few weeks ago, and we'll probably repeat that later in the year again, so that attracts more people, just lifts the awareness. And another thing we've been doing, we've got a few people that have been interviewing some of the identities around the district and recording their interviews. And so once a month we've started playing those in the museum itself, on the videos, and that's attracting quite a few people to listen to how people's stories and what's been happening in their lives and in the district over the years. So that's another thing that's been attracting more people. But we still get a good group of volunteers. Unfortunately, we're losing a few. I think we might have said that last time we talked to you. We're still, as people get older, inevitably they are passing away. So we've lost some of our key, keen volunteers and ones that have been with us for a long time, unfortunately, but I guess that's all part of life, isn't it? So and we're actively trying to get more new volunteers too, so they slowly come in as people retire and looking for things to do in their retirement years. Sandra, I don't know whether you want to add any more to that. I guess happy to answer questions.
I was just going to clarify the paying visitors, like the visitors. I'm at the top of the form there where we do the statistics. I've got 4689, and I thought when you see my opening summary, I said that we had 1,531 visitors during that period, and I thought, oh, there's a difference. But in actual fact, we had in that 6 months, we had 1,531 paying visitors to the museum. Our Smoko visitors were 595, and as a result of the Fantasy of Lights, we had 2,225, and the events, other than going through the museum, were 338. So that's where the difference is there. It's been quite pleasing. The last 6 months, from July to December, were quite devastation for us, really, I think, as far as in terms of numbers. But it has been picking up this year, which is wonderful, especially in the local and the regional areas. We're quite often on duty, my husband and I, on a Saturday, and we're getting a lot of out-of-town people coming in and having a look. So that's really quite pleasing.
Awesome. Did we have any questions? I see Her Worship has her hand up.
Thank you. Morning team. Again, well done. And I know it's been incredibly challenging times, but I think some of the innovation that you're using to combine other events, and also congratulations for your Anzac Day service. I understand you had about 80 people there, so well done. Those kind of initiatives are great at bringing new people in. And the other one that we often don't talk about, but is incredibly important to our community, is the community archives work that your team does. And pulling all that information together, recording our history. And I know, you know, it just goes unseen, the number of people that tap into trying to do family history, etc., and gathering information, go there for that information. So from that point of view, our community is entirely grateful for what you do. So thank you once again for the great work.
Can I just mention that Anzac parade that we had at the Coach House inside the museum, which everyone should go and visit currently. We have a wonderful display, and Denise Kenley from the archives has actually found quite a few, and I know it sounds unusual, but cartoons relating to the war from both sides of the conflict, and she's actually displayed it in their theatre. It really has to be seen to be believed. It really is. It's wonderful.
When you mentioned the archives, Helen, we're still continue to get a lot of records coming in, and the Fielding High School have brought in a huge amount in recent times. I think we've got all the student records. Unfortunately, there was a break, must have been about 2000. There's about 6 years when they changed over to an electronic system, and I think they've lost records of students for that. But otherwise, we've got all the student records there, which they're boxing up. But and from that, of course, when the centenary celebrations kept getting postponed and then finally cancelled, you know, face-to-face celebrations. So we were able to have that and still have the, or is it still there, Sandra?
No, it's finished now. We've got the Anzac.
Oh, so we've got the Anzac.
Yes.
Now, yeah, I haven't been into the museum in the last week, but so we had quite a good number of people coming in to the archive as well as the museum over the with the Fielding High School centenary.
I think the thing I like too is that during COVID, now that we've got the large storage shed, our display teams and the trust had a committee set up with terms of reference, basically to see what we can do for the future. We're not resting on our laurels. We're looking to the future to see what we can do with those storage areas that we've cleared now, and how we can revamp the museum so that we've been there 10 years and we don't to make it a stale situation. We want to always be fresh. So we've used that time during COVID to actively look at things.
That's great.
Great timing really to do that and reflect on that. So completely, yeah, I think that's great. And it sounds like as though the Anzac service was a success as well that you held, so well done there. Were there any other questions from the committee? Thank you very much for coming in. Just keep up the good work. I think it's, hopefully you can pick up a few more volunteers to help you out.
Yep, likewise. Thanks, Heather. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next up, we have the Manawatu Rural Support Services.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. I was going to leave it to April to do all the talking, but it occurred to me as I was listening that we better, from a board point of view, Manawatu Rural Support Service had the retirement of rural community worker Tina Sims back in February, so we've been working hard to replace her. We've just managed, well, fingers crossed, we've managed to find the right person just at the moment, so we're in the process of recruiting somebody new to because for the last couple of months April's been working single-handedly and she's been doing a great job. So yeah, as far as what's happening out in the field, I'll pass over to April.
Okay, so just looking at that period of time that we're focusing on, being flexible and adaptable to hopefully whatever situations we were coming across. So we did have some workshops planned, one at Te Tekanga Marae, and we were planning for an online benign and a focus group supporting some massive research The Massey research went ahead, but unfortunately we had to postpone the Te Tikanga Marae workshop, but we've spoken to the committee members there recently and we're rescheduling that, so that's great. But during that period of time, obviously during lockdown, we were working through emails and phone, very much through the community groups, community committees, the schools, play centres, garden groups, other groups to circulate information, but also to get feedback about people who might need us to specifically contact them and maybe have a home visit. So during that period of time, there were some families dealing with some very serious health issues, and we tried to have face-to-face contact with them, either outside of lockdown level 4 or with PPE. Also grief, some families dealing with grief, and then towards the end of the year, there was a flooding event, obviously, as you know, that we were able to pop in and provide grocery packs for some of the families who are involved in that situation, and also following up on those families into the new year as well. So I think from my perspective, it was building up to Tima's retirement, making sure that she had a chance to feel comfortable closing the cases she had open, but say goodbye to the people she'd been connected with for many years. But also it was about working smart and being adaptable and flexible and really helping those families that were suffering because of the things I'd mentioned, but also because of the COVID mandates. Some people were very isolated, and we certainly had no bias as to whether we were, like, we visited everybody. We didn't leave anybody out. And actually, we had quite a few referrals during that period of time from a wide range of groups, which is brilliant. It means that we're getting to know more people and more people are getting to know us. So that collaboration is how I think we can really try and get to as many families as possible. But I suppose just as an overall impression, I think a very resilient community, people doing things above and beyond to help their neighbours and communities, a strong community. But as I might have mentioned before at other meetings, there's been that level of anxiety that's just below the surface caused by COVID, but people are working through all of that often in a very positive way. So that's just sort of my impression there.
Thank you, Tima. Sorry. Did we oh, you're such an iconic duo. Hey, did we have any questions from the rest of the committee around what you have been up to? I'm not surprised that it has been probably a difficult time for you guys with getting out to the community. There's a lot of uncertainty around having visitors and outside people coming in. So yeah, I appreciate that it is probably a difficult time to be in your role. Councillor Casey.
Yeah, thank you. Just very quickly, mental health, I'm not too sure whether I picked up too much on that. Just a very quick, if I may, around our rural mental health, please.
Definitely, that level of anxiety, is there. We've had some brilliant professional development that has given us some resources to take out, and we've been able to distribute those resources to people, especially who have been dealing with grief or serious health issues, but also the ones who have been affected by mandates, who are feeling very strong emotions. And by us taking a very unbiased, neutral position, we've been able to just offer options. I think if we've got really good resources and we can offer options to people that they can pick up, then they're still taking the lead in it. They've still got control of the situation. So options about information. And while I'm thinking about that, just as an aside, thank you very much to the council for providing those little A5 posters that we were able to distribute widely about quarantine and being prepared for quarantine. So we very much appreciate the resources we've been able to get from the local welfare forum group. That's been brilliant, and we've certainly distributed them, but also mental health resources, just things about grounding yourself in as much as breathing. We've had some brilliant resources to distribute in that regard. as well as information about counsellors who are available. Some people prefer not to do that, but at least we've got the information to distribute. So in answer to that, Shane, yes, definitely mental health has been something we always focus on, but specifically during COVID times, yeah.
Oh, no, appreciate your commentary. Thank you so much. Yeah, well done.
Councillor Short.
Thank you, Avril and Linda, and thank you for everything that your organisation does. I think you fly under the radar quite a bit. We know how hard you work, but you do it quietly and discreetly. So I was just wondering, I know it's outside of the reporting period that we're talking about. Are you finding the cost of living, and particularly for rural people, the cost of fuel is causing stress and anxiety amongst the community?
Definitely, and that's where talking about the rural bus service and options like that, very important. There's a bit of a fear for people who are living in the rural community, especially the elderly, that they will have to shift into town at some stage because of the cost of living or because of health issues. It's not just the cost of living, but that's certainly adding to it. But the cost of living in town is expensive too, and to be able to transfer to a new home is difficult as far as rentals and the cost of buying a home or renting. So definitely the cost of living is an issue, and the fuel costs certainly have been spoken about a lot, but also groceries as well.
It's not surprising, really, to be fair, is it? I think, yeah, it'd be lovely if we could find a way to make rural living more affordable, but it is what it is, I guess. And so appreciate the work that you are doing in that space. If there are no further questions, I'd just like to thank you for what you're doing in the community. I know our rural folk up here in the Northern Manawatu really appreciate it, and it does go notice what you do. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Next up, we have Manchester House. Anne, are you there?
I think she can hear us.
Anne, can you hear us?
No, obviously sound.
Going to Ellie.
Would you like me to move to Ellie while Anne sorts her sound? Oh.
Still not got any sound. Okay, hang on, I'll just unmute myself. Where are we?
We can hear you, Anne.
Cool, thank you. That's all I needed to know when I looked at it. Sorry, you didn't have us on in your waiting room, that's all. So I came in the middle of the rural support one.
No problem. You know the drill. We're happy to listen to what you've been up to and the good work that Manchester House has been doing.
Cool, thank you, thank you. So, do you have any questions? Because obviously you've got our accountability here in front of us. And I think that's probably more about provoking questions at the moment. Are you, Heather, are you chairing, are you? Or...
Yes, I have taken over the chair from Councillor Hilary Humphries.
Oh, cool, thank you, just so I know.
So we're just struggling a few papers at the moment, so I need to scroll to your guys' paper, but I see Her Worship has a question that I'm happy to take now while I scroll to your paper.
Thank you. Thanks, Anne. Thank you for your report. But I wondered if you could just take a couple of minutes to highlight for us, given what we've been through and the work that you and your team have done, can you tell us what the current key issues are for the people seeking your service?
Just to clarify, in the accountability period from the previous 6 months, 1st of July to December, because so much has happened in this particular period of time from January that, yeah, it's quite interesting, really. So the accountability period, Mayor Warboys?
Well, I'm just, yeah, we've got those facts and figures, which that certainly identifies counselling and food parcels and budgeting, but I'm also interested to currently have, are those still figures sitting up there as your top key issues?
Right, okay, thank you. Interesting since January this year. Obviously with the impact of COVID in our community has changed a lot of what we are doing. So for the last, what are we now, April, for the last 2 months, we've been working under teams. We've now gone back to one team since we have COVID within our social services for our employees. So the last 2 months, we've been basically working with 50% of our employees doing 100% of the work. We've taken on some substantial contracts through MSD under the food, social self-isolation food relief funds. And I think we need to make it really clear, especially going forward once we do the accountability for this period, that we are keeping the self-isolation food boxes totally separate from our community food parcels funding. In fact, we've ended up in what we would call a two-silo income. And once you look at our annual accounts later on this year, you will see that under the MSD contracts for self-isolation, currently they're sitting at just over 400,000. Not all of that funding will be used. Part of it is discretionary funding. So it sort of comes under care in the community, plus the other food parcels, community connectors, etc. So I think I think that's probably the most important point I can say to the council today, that so we're having a side-by-side silo income with our normal application process, which will include obviously the priority funding accountability. Thanks, come sit down, Belinda. Belinda's just joined us. She is our accounts manager. So, so from the priority funding point of view, that remains the same and is still supporting counselling, budgeting, and our community food parcels, which have remained relatively the same. I could say they've averaged the same quantity each week, which is somewhere between 5 and 7 a week, as opposed to the self-isolation ones, which peaked at just under 100 for 1 week and have been steadily declining since then. What were they last week, Belinda?
Yep, they declined. It was 38 for the week for COVID, and 11 for the week for our normal.
Okay, so last week, 38 self-isolation food parcels and 11 for community food parcels. The methamphetamine group, as of last year as well, under lockdown, the issues were because obviously under lockdown they could not meet, so that lack of routine and that lack of peer-to-peer support was huge, and that has been the same with this year when they had their first meeting last week after basically not meeting for the best part of 1 month to 6 weeks. So So that lack of routine and that lack of peer-to-peer support has been huge. We're lucky enough that 2 of the original group members are now leading the group, and that is Vinny and Honey, and they are undertaking further education through Welltech. So, and we are supporting those 2 individuals on Thursdays. So they undertake some form of counselling with various individual members, and that happened last year as well. What else would you like to know?
Councillor Short.
And I was just wondering how the seniors are getting on in the community. A number of the organisations we've already spoken to have talked about social isolation and anxiety about going out. Are people still coming? Are you running your programs? Are they still coming, or are people staying home?
Initially, obviously, last year, the anxiety and the frustration that we all felt was had increased, especially under lockdown and all those other circumstances. This year, that was certainly so, with the various public reports coming through, with modelling numbers coming through saying that we were going to reach 10,000 or thereabouts in January. Since COVID is actually now into our community, the senior groups have been coming back in force, in actual fact, and Sandy has been contacting them through the various lockdowns and under this particular period of COVID in the community. The seniors have become reasonably resilient, in actual fact. They're finding that, as we all are, that it's not quite as scary as we had, you know, that fear that had gone on in the community prior to this, and are feeling much happier within themselves. So going forward, we're certainly looking to, with some, you know, great emphasis on more groups. So the art classes, which we obviously got funding through Creative Communities, is starting next week. We are still lacking in some registrations, but that will certainly, we need a bit more promotion around that. But, you know, once a week goes out, that's no problem. And there are other groups that we're certainly looking at starting, like senior drama, and with the collaboration of neighbourhood support, certainly looking at our exercise group and how we can, with the numbers coming through, how we can perhaps change that a little, and some of them, you know, split that group simply so that our facilitator can keep a closer eye on the group, which is really important when you're looking at groups of seniors from 60s, 70s, 80s and 90-year-olds. Need a very close eye on them when they're doing the exercises. Does that answer your question, Alison?
Thank you. Yes.
If there are no further questions, I think we can continue on. Thank you so much for your positivity, Anne, and dedication to Manchester House, I think.
Thank you to you all. As we all know, this past 6 months and the previous 6 months have been really interesting times for us all, and we've all learnt a lot. And it's great to have smiles on our faces going forward, that the rest of the year is just going to be fantastic. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Anne and team.
Bye. Bye.
Good morning, Ellie.
Good morning.
Sorry, we're running a little bit behind schedule.
That's okay.
you know the drill by now. Would you like to give us a wee rundown as to what neighbourhood support have been up to?
Sure thing. So I will assume that everybody's had the chance to read the report. Just a couple of things to highlight. The July to December was a really, really positive 6 months for us at Neighbourhood Support, despite some of the challenges with COVID that is echoing around everybody's reports. You will have noticed that we launched our revised dance fit format for the Music and Movement program, which has been really, really successful. We're very lucky to have Lee Bryan running that program for us and taking those classes. So in that 6 months, which has really started in August until a couple of weeks into December, so not the full 6 months, we did 55 sessions and have an average around 35 residents a week coming along across the sessions, but across the period, 122 residents in total. So that was quite exciting, and we see that growing still, and we're currently looking at options of what to do about that and how to accommodate that growth and demand from people. So that's really exciting. Buddy reading has also gone from strength to strength, and even though we had a couple of schools go inactive due to COVID and still are inactive, we still kept going and still managed to increase the total number of sessions from the previous period, so that was really cool. And probably just something a little bit more current is you probably see another face in the call, and we've had some staff changes. So by now, at the time of reporting, I was still in the role, and we had appointed a new GM and a new community engagement coordinator. And by now I have formally stepped down from the role, and Lorraine has stepped into the role, which is really cool for us at Neighbourhood Support. So yeah, and we've got a guy, Kyle van der Bittner, who is our new community engagement coordinator. He is extremely talented and passionate and just hitting the ground running, getting out into the community. So that's been really exciting to watch as well. So yeah, just go for gold with questions if you've got any.
I guess my question would just be around getting volunteers moving forward. I know a lot of your volunteers are older people who sort of have time to do that. Is there a bit of apprehension from volunteers being willing to put their hand up and expose themselves to the community in this current virus time?
We had about 4 or 5 of our volunteers decide to abstain from buddy reading while COVID lockdown and sort of post-lockdown. And coming into this year, most of them have come back. A couple of them haven't come back yet because they prefer to spend their summer months in the garden. But the hesitancy that was there seems to be sort of dissipating. I think similar to what Anne just said, our older community have sort of become a bit more resilient. And meanwhile, we've done another recruiting round for volunteers for buddy reading, and we've got a few new faces on the teams. So there's the odd person who's still hesitant, and we just accommodate that where we can. But yeah, it hasn't dramatically affected our ability to offer the program. So that's good.
I would just add that some of the newer, most recent buddy reading volunteers are in a different age bracket to what you're referring to, Heather.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we've got a couple of outliers dragging the average down now.
Great. Hey, Her Worship has a question.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks for the great work that you did, and all the best for the future for you. And welcome, Al. Good to see you again, pop up. Al, last time I met with you, you were involved in organising a youth event, which had a couple of hiccups with the COVID and eventually. So I'm just keen to know, is that event still live and likely to go ahead?
Thank you, Mayor Helen. Yes, we were organising that. Maybe I'll just clarify that that wasn't part of our priority services funding. We did receive some secondary, some community development funding from you for that, but At the current moment, because of the funding being received in this financial year, we are going to return the funding, and because it's unlikely or more or less impossible for us to sort of make that event happen in this financial year, we will make a decision in June as an organisation about whether we can kind of handle that event on our capacity. It would involve reapplying for funding and getting perhaps an intern on board, and then a temporary position for an event coordinator. We're still really, really keen to deliver the event from a conceptual level, but it just will come down to capacity. And what I learned the hard way was that although we had a dedicated capacity with our intern for that, it did create a lot of extra work for me, which then took away from some of the other core focus work that I could have been doing. So just have to be really mindful of that going forward. But yeah, I'd really love to see the event happen. We had a lot of, and we had a lot of great feedback about it, and I think the concept is definitely strong. And obviously going forward with that later this year would probably be December. If it was to happen, that would be a whole lot less complicated because we won't have the same COVID restrictions, which were ultimately what kind of tipped us over the edge and meant we couldn't put it forward this time.
Yeah, no, great, because I think I'm pleased you haven't given up on it, because I think it's got huge potential, and I'm wondering if this is a really good opportunity to do some working together with some of our other community groups. I'm thinking like our youth council, FDP, all groups that are connected with youth or have KPIs around supporting community events. I just think the sooner we can get some of this connection with our young people together, an event like that that's got the bones of it would be great to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we did have the Youth Council involved with the event last year. So yeah, if we go ahead, we'll make that decision at our June committee meeting, because we'd want to get in for the first July round of community development funding to get that going ahead. So yeah.
Speaking on behalf of the Youth Council, I guess, Your Worship, we are fairly well booked with events in terms of our capacity to assist with that sort of thing for the rest of the year with what we're already looking to do. So I'm not sure if the Youth Council would be fully available to step in and help with such an event in this year anyway. Did we have any other questions, comments from the floor? Thank you, Ellie, and great to see you, Al. It's great to see that the family continues to be involved.
I finally convinced her to apply for the role, so that was good. I could maybe just one last point before we duck off the call. You haven't seen the last of me yet. For my sins, I had put myself forward to join the Neighbourhood Support Committee, and at our last committee meeting, our current chairperson stepped down and somebody nominated me, so now I'm the new chairperson. So I look forward to continuing to support the organisation, and I'll probably still pop into these reporting meetings going forward, but obviously Lorraine's in the hot seat now.
She's a proverbial bad penny.
I'm pleased to hear you're still around, Ellie. You're an asset to the organisation.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Awesome. So next up we have the Palmerston North Surf Lifesaving Club, and I see Alec is online there.
Yes, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we sure can.
Good. Look, I've got a bit of a presentation which I'll try and bring up. Is that if I can share my screen? See what that does. Share. So did that come up?
Yes, sure has.
Okay, look, I've got a few slides here just to run through, and then I'm happy to take some questions afterwards. And so this is just reporting on the first 6 months of the program up into December. Where's my cursor? Hang on. Not sure what's going to happen here. It's come through. Yeah. Look, just a bit of a background. The Palmerston North Surf Lifesaving Club's been providing a community service in the region since 1947. So we're actually in our 75th year, which is, we did set out to have a celebration in January this year, but COVID defeated us, and we're working towards a celebration January next year. We've got quite a few overseas members that we'd like to have back at that function. Here's a couple of snaps of the beach that were taken by drone just recently. Just a bit of a sense of, this is looking back into the village, to the surf club, the community call into the village, and the access out onto the beach. And just to remind people that we're on a beach where you can travel nearly 10 k's south down to Foxton on the beach at low tide. It is a gazetted road. And most of our patrolling, though, flagged area would be in the middle of that image, just essentially just south of the stream. But you've also got to remember that you can look 10 k's north up to Tangamoana on the beach at low tide. So it's a beach where we have, on a busy day, people in cars stretched up and down the beach. So it's a bit different from a lot of other beaches where you lifeguard. We have quite a specific area. And it's a comment that's made by guards who come and join us to help. Where do you look beyond you tend to look beyond the flag. So just some images of the beach. The regional lifeguard service this year, as it has for now going back nearly 20 years, operates for 6 weeks. It's a Monday to Friday service that runs from mid-December through to the end of January. And the funding comes through from both the Manawatu District Council, who have been the foundation funders from the beginning, with the Palmerston North City Council coming in, picking up half the cost over about the last 5 years. This is in the report that was submitted back in January. The service involves employing 3 lifeguards. Up until the end of December, they've done 211 hours. I don't know where the extra outcome should have been 210 hours. It doesn't divide by 3 patrol hours. They've done 1 rescue. And if we look down here, instances or non-rescue related, what we would call them preventions, 105 preventions over that 2-week period, involving just over 1,200 people. If I go through, as I said, 1 rescue, 105 preventive actions, no first aids on the beach. Certainly the weather started that just before Christmas was still quite challenging, but then it certainly improved between Christmas and New Year, and through January, just outstanding. Probably one of the best summers and best conditions we've had on the beach. The lifeguards are actually challenged in that first couple of weeks. The sea conditions are actually quite challenging up until the new year. And in fact, I guarded on one of those weekends and it was quite a challenge. But through January, sea conditions are actually quite favourable. Very few rips or holes operating. So certainly they did that 1 rescue and a large number of prevented actions. And I put those photos up before because often some of those actions are a distance from the flags. And there's a particularly bad spot about half a kilometre south of where we usually patrol, where there's a notorious hole that they're always going down to help people out of. So the lifeguards have always got their eyes open. I mean, one of the challenges this year, this is a picture I pulled out of the Evening Standard. One of the challenges this year was just access onto the beach. It was a challenge throughout just because of the conditions. And so just for, not only for lifeguards getting on the beach, but just community. And I think it's to the point where it's probably actually having a negative impact on the community out there. So I just want to flag that. I'm aware that there are some actions going on with James and the team to actually address that right now, but I just wanted to flag that while I was with you today. So I said access is a bit of an issue. Interesting, this year the beach was closed because of poor water quality with high enterococci counts just before Christmas following the flooding. And that actually occurred in January again. I can't remember ever when the beach has been closed for poor water quality. The stream certainly, but the beach not. And in fact, we have had 5 over the season 5 occasions where the beach has been closed because of those high counts. And that's taking that information off the LAWA website, which I need to go and actually investigate that a bit further, because I struggle with that, with the Tasman being, given we have no development near the beach, the river mouths, the Manawatu is south of us, and the Rangitikei is probably one of the cleaner rivers to the north. I just also make the comment, and I think it's just also a compliment to the district council, that I think encouraging the community to come out and enjoy the beach and the outdoors, I don't think it's never been more important, given the health and well-being of our community around the whole pressure around COVID-19. And we actually went ahead with the big dig this year, even though our instinct was not to, because it is a significant community event, and it's a chance for people to get out and about. So we actually ran the event. We double fenced. People had to demonstrate they had a vaccine pass to be able to get into the area to compete. But I can't emphasize enough, I think, the importance of having these outdoor events where we can provide a safer environment for community to enjoy. Just the last slide. What we'll do with the balance of the patrol information that will come through in the next report is add it to the information that we've been providing each year to council on that regional guard program. If we go back, say last year, there were 2 rescues, 136 preventive actions, and 1,700 people involved. Last year was a really poor summer season. We're already probably up to that level of preventions and people involved in that first 2 weeks this year. So look, quite happy to take some questions.
Councillor Casey, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Alec. Thanks for all the work you guys are doing down there. I'm just really interested about the closures of the beaches. And sorry, I don't know whether I heard or not, but have we zeroed down where that contamination is coming from? That's quite a concern.
Yeah, look, I'm sorry, and it's on my list of things to go back to have a conversation with the regional council. But yeah, it's I struggle a little bit. The stream's usually quite poor. That's usually red through the summer, but I can only think of it somehow that stream's influencing the area they're sampling. So I need to get some more intelligence on that, because if that's the case, then we might see if they could get some sampling done further from the stream north and south of it. And so that we're not, but in saying that, certainly Foxton, Otaki and Waitarere, they were also closed during those same times as well. And I can see it around, I can see the issues with Foxton and Waitarere because of the Manawatu, which tends to flow south. But yeah, I struggle a little bit, yes. So I'm going to follow it up, and when I report it, the annual report, I'll put some more information there for you guys.
Thanks, Alec.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good idea, Alec. If there are no further questions, thank you so much for the ongoing work that you're doing for the club. I think you are a huge part of the success of the Surf Lifesaving Club and of the beach itself. So thank you, and keep it up.
Look, and thank you for your ongoing support. It is appreciated. And I know there's some effort going along that access issue, which I think is it probably limited the number of people that came on the beach this year. To some degree, that wasn't a negative, but yeah, we really want people to be able to get onto the beach and enjoy what is an amazing coastline and an amazing environment on a global stage.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
You too. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Next up, we have Plant to Plate, Jacinda. Are you there, Jacinda?
Here we go. Hi.
Awesome. Hi.
How are you?
Good. We're good. We've it's been a morning full of good vibes, to be fair, hearing all
yeah. Lots of interesting conversations going on. I've been watching, so it's really it's good to hear what everyone's doing around the region. It's pretty cool.
Well, now it's your turn.
My turn. So let's talk about Plant to Plate. So it has been a bit of a struggle for the last year or so. Even, could you bring that up, please? It's been difficult to get into schools with everything that's going on, and it's been difficult to get the volunteers that we need to run the sessions, because the majority of our volunteers are retired, and obviously we don't want to get them sick. And then the schools have had different regulations as well, so it's basically a week by week thing for us at the moment. But yeah, we're happy to be able to still be able to deliver the program, and it's great to be able to let the kids have a little bit of an experience, because they're missing out on so many things at the moment. There's so many things that they can't go and do. So it's great for us to be able to go in and still cook and garden with them. We've been working really, really hard to ensure that we can provide the program the way we want to, and yeah, ensure that the kids are encouraged to keep cooking and growing, which I think is essential at the moment, really essential. I don't know.
I guess I can help prompt you with a question.
Thank you.
I guess obviously this report is from last year. How are things looking for this year in terms of getting volunteers and school policies softening a wee bit?
So this year, school policies, like I said before, it's very much a week by week thing for us, depending on the amount of volunteers we have, and also the school. If that class has got too many students missing, is it worth us going in? Or do we swap a class? We do a different class. But we're working really hard on putting in new gardens in schools. So Mount Biggs, we've put in 3 or 4 new gardens up there. And just ensuring that even if we can't get in to do the actual session, ensuring that the teacher and the students can still continue gardening. And growing the produce and using the produce. So we send through recipes if we can't get in there. So, and we can always drop off our vans and they can use all our equipment. So this year's looking great. We've got all of our sessions filled. We've only missed a couple this year because of lockdowns and lack of volunteers, but.
That's awesome. Did we have any questions from the floor? Councillor Short. You're on mute.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, more of a comment than a question. Thank you, Jacinda, for all that you do. I think your program's fantastic, and of course, particularly working in primary schools is challenging at the moment. But I think with the current inflation and cost of living, it's more important than ever to teach children how to grow things at home, and hopefully they're going home and inspiring parents that perhaps weren't gardening as well. So I hope that sort of thing is happening as well.
Thank you, Alison. Yeah, that's I think that's our main aim, is to just ensure that our tamariki are learning these lovely things, and that they can continue to take it on and do it at home themselves. And yeah, has anyone seen the price of a cabbage?
It's not cheap to eat
$6.
Yeah.
It's
my husband got the groceries a couple of weeks ago and just whizzed around and picked the things on the list without the prices, and I went,
It certainly is.
I won't ask him again.
Thank you so much for the work you're doing, Jacinda.
It's very simple, and I don't have much to report on, but we just keep doing what we're doing, and encouraging everyone to keep on cooking and growing their own, and yeah.
Your passion for the concept of what you're doing is very evident, and it's really cool. And I do hope that that young people do go home and have those conversations with their parents, because it is really important. So thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day.
I will.
So next up we have Snapback Jim.
Who aren't online at the moment.
Excuse me, I'm just going to give her a ring. Sorry, I didn't see that chat, Jay, so I'll ring now.
Thank you, Lynn.
Do you guys just want to grab a cup of tea or coffee or whatever for 5?
Yep, cool.
Cool. Welcome this morning, Charmaine and Philly. Hey, thank you for joining us. I know it's a little bit of a challenge getting on and connected to our meetings sometimes. I struggle too, don't worry. And so, look, structure usually goes that you give us a big rundown on what you've been up to, and then that just gives us time for questions at the end if we have any.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. So we've been just doing all our programs that I put in that report last time. So we've actually been really, really busy working with heaps of youth referred to by the police, by Oranga Tamariki, by the schools, from District Health Board. So yeah, we've got lots of kids on our plate at the moment, and doing some really cool stuff. That we've got a bunch of police kids right now heading off to do some paintball shooting for a holiday program that we run for the police and things like that. Yeah, and Philly's obviously been on the board over there for the Manawatu, what's it?
Yeah, it's
youth board?
a Fielding Youth Boards that organised, runs by Ashley and Fielding, which we meet on a regular basis. So we had a meeting last night and just literally worked with Alan, the police, thanks to Fielding. Not sure you're aware with it. I think they had a meeting with you guys early on. It's just to try to work out some solutions for these young kids that before they get into the youth court. So if we can prevent, go from there, that's good, and try to help them through their directions and make some better decisions. These kids are aged, I think, from about 13 or 15 to 18. So the lots of high schools one. So once again, that's pretty going good so far.
Yeah.
Kia ora, folks. I'll just jump in here. My name's Shane Charnfilly. I'm one of the district councillors, but I'm also the GM for Youthline, and I understand your Michael's reached out to us. I've just replied to him in regards to counselling and mentoring services, so just sort of give you a heads up just on that kōrero around that aspect. But thank you just for what you're doing with our rangatahi as well in the communities, and just want to acknowledge you this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shane.
Are there any other questions from the floor for Charmaine and Philly? Councillor Short.
Thank you. Good morning, Char and Philly. Your program sounds really good and quite needed at the moment, I think. We've talked with some of the other agencies this morning that youth are getting a bit restless in these COVID times, especially when some are not going to school because they've meant to be home in isolation, that sort of thing. I just wondered, myself personally, I haven't heard an update from the police recently, and I just wondered whether much of the young offending that we're seeing that's leading people to your program is gang initiation stuff. We seem to get a lot of young ones that come from Palmerston North over Fielding and, you know, do some stuff. And I just wondered, is that the sort of age bracket you're working with? And are you hoping that by coming along to your programs, we're nipping some of that in the bud?
Absolutely, trying to nip any of that in the bud. There's no tolerance for gang association or talk or language or anything within our club. And that's made very, very clear. And then it's what the 9 times out of 10, these kids join a gang because they need that sense of belonging. And so what we try and do is we try and create a similar philosophy, I guess, you know, as a gang, and provide that wraparound support, provide that sense of belonging, so that they don't actually need to participate in gang environments. But a lot of our kids we're capturing before they get into the gangs that the police are giving us. So a huge amount that we're working with, they're on that cusp. So, you know, next step for them would be to join a gang or whatever. And so we're doing heaps of remedial work around that to make sure that that doesn't happen. And our success rate's been huge. Like we got police, the chief guy for a recognition certificate just recently because of the success rate that we're having.
Yep. And obviously, yeah, as Shah said, that these kids, then they're on the verge of getting that direction, and they don't need publicized because it's out there, and it's pretty hard. So when they come to our door, we're really good street rule. You know, we're not going to reward their behaviour or the bad behaviour. So I'm really I lay the law out, obviously, and you know, work with them, let them feel the place. We believe, and I believe, every single kids that come through our door, they have stories. Whatever story that they're going through, their life, family histories, pretty bad, some of those ones, and we just provide that sense of belonging, safe environment, trusted, and sooner or later they'll start talking, and that's where I guess we need to work with a lot of agencies. When that happens, we reach out and try to help some of these kids. Yeah, but I mean, they are there, and most of them probably end up again somehow. But if we do something now, work them now, hopefully that'll prevent, and hopefully that'll think. You know, they're not 5 and that 2. They know what's right and wrong. It's just a matter of work with them. Hey, just encourage them, I guess. And we invite all their families, all the people, like the police work with us, to come and see what they're doing, so they you know, it's not just the police and schools, you guys. It's all of us that have a role to play, some of these kids, and it's important. That's what we're trying to do. And yeah, it's pretty much.
It's not just the homes that these kids are coming from, like the police kids that we've got on hand right now, you know, they turn up hungry. They've been wearing the same clothes for 2 weeks. So, you know, Philly and I go get clothes for them. We shower them. We make them brush their teeth every day when they come, because that doesn't happen. We teach them how to make food with just raw basics, and send them home with food. So it's, you know, like it's not just the kids' fault. It's if you see some of the homes that we pick them up from and the behaviour of the parents, you can kind of understand why half of them are seeking that sense of belonging elsewhere. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Thank you. I'd just like to, my name's Lynn Daly. I haven't met you yet, but I did meet you in my previous role when I was at Whincoa, and I just want to give a shout out to the mahi that you guys do. It's not, from my observation or our observation of the mahi that you guys do, it's not just actually helping the person that gets referred to you for that moment in time. It's actually helping that person and their wider whānau. And you guys are causing generational change, and you know, you're doing such a fantastic job. Just want to do a big shout out to you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Means a lot. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I'd just like to say thank you for the mahi you're doing. I think we're all very impressed with what you're doing, and youth aren't really the easiest to deal with, and so good on you guys for stepping up and doing some work in that area. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I invite you guys, if you're ever in town, just pop in and to see the facility, what we have, because that's another crucial area of what we're doing. It's a facility, we have showers, lots of room so these kids can enjoy what we're doing. And you know, we're 24/7 open for all these kids to come and have
midnight runs we've had to do.
And that's the thing, you know, we have call for text in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, not just primarily from Martin, wherever those kids, they reach out, which is, it's important, and that trust that we try to build. And it's you know, it's one of those things that it's reward or what we're doing is actually working. And once again, we're really grateful for the servers that you guys and the police and everybody, you know, as I said, we're all working together for the future of these kids, because these are our future generations, that we don't want our city to be in like, I don't know, like America one day, but what we're doing now. So we're grateful, and thank you for
your guys' support.
It really means a lot.
With your funding and
grateful.
stuff. Yeah, every bit helps.
Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Hi, Joanne. Sorry you had to wait, but I'm sure you enjoyed listening to these guys.
I did enjoy it very much, actually, but I did miss who they were. They seem to be doing some incredible stuff, but who were they? I'd like to know more.
They are Snapback Gym. So that was Charmaine and Philly from the Snapback Gym. So yeah, really cool. Tell us about how you've been getting on with Super Grands and what challenges and successes you've been having.
So we've actually been affected quite a lot from COVID, twofold, because a lot of our volunteers, they're not all grands, but the majority of them are retired, and they have their own health issues and concerns. And so we've had to balance that with a service that we're providing. And we're also finding people just aren't as keen to come out at the moment. And because it's hands-on, close contact, there were a lot of restrictions. We had to adapt with how we did things. So there's a little bit of frustration with that. It's slowly turning around, which is good. For this particular contract, we normally run 2 or 3 workshops, one after each other on a week. But this time what we've done is once a month, exact same day every month, so that everybody knew, you know, that February was going to be this day, March was going to be this day, etc. It hasn't been as successful as I'd hoped. That might work better. So we've got a little bit of evaluating to do at the end. However, the people that come out just love coming out to our cooking. They love the company that they're in. They love just different healthy food. But of course, what we're also finding is that the cost of food at the moment, and we keep quite good records, is just skyrocketing with how much our workshops are now costing us. So a few new challenges that we haven't had in the past.
Were there any questions from the floor?
Hello, Shane here. Hey, Joanne.
Hi.
I think just reinforcing those comments around the cost of food, pretty much everyone, whether in that industry or not, who we provide money for, are commenting about the cost of living. So we certainly get that message loud and clear. Yeah, but thanks for doing what you're doing, though.
Thank you.
Alison, did you have a question?
I was just trying to flick through the report. Where's the venue that you hold your classes, or do you have more than one venue?
So we try and find a free venue wherever we go. And so at the moment in Fielding, Activate Church provides us their kitchen free. So that's where we go. It's not a bad venue. It's not perfect. I mean, my big dream one day is that we have our own facilities in both Palmerston North and out in Fielding, but it's a few years off probably. But yeah, we go where we can find somewhere as free or as low cost as we can get. So.
And what sort of age group of people are actually attending the classes?
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't actually got that at the top of my head. The youngest is a young mum. She's probably in about her 30s, and just had an older woman in her 80s. So that's probably about the range.
Diverse.
I'll make sure I note that next time. Good question, Alison.
Yes, I guess I was trying to see if it was younger families, you know, with the cost of living and everything, learning to go back to basics.
Yeah, and the problem is we get, because I've got employees, I've got volunteers, it's when we do the workshop, you know, we get a lot of calls, can you do it in the weekends, can you do it at night? But it's that whole juggle around looking after both. It's not just about the people who come to the workshop, it's about our volunteers who are providing that service and having them giving a meaningful service to their community as well. So
thank you.
No further questions? Thank you, Joanne, for the work that you're doing with Super Grands. I think without people like you in organisations like Super Grands, it just wouldn't happen. So keep up the good work, and we're really grateful for what you're doing.
Thank you, and we appreciate the funding, and rest assured I'm constantly evaluating what we're doing and how we can do it better. And so we'll just hope, as with most organisations, that things will start to get easier as the year goes on. And, thank you for your time.
Don't we all? Thank you.
Okay, see ya.
Morning, Kylie. Do we have you online?
Yes. Morning, everyone.
Good morning. Kylie, you're welcome just to give us a 5-minute rundown on how things are going with Te Manawa Family Services and things that might have popped up in addition to your report, and we can have time for questions at the end.
Yeah, just, generally we're going quite well, very, very quiet, and I think the same as what the lady from Super Grand said, people are electing not to come out as much as they have in the past to attend our group programs and things like that. So we are working really hard to engage people through Zoom at the moment and run our groups remotely where we can. And there's been quite a good uptake in that. So that's just sort of like the general feeling of what's happening with us at the moment. We've had the benefit of the Ministry of Justice and Department of Corrections have bulk funded us until the end of the year based on what we did last year. So we've got some certainty in our funding there and being able to keep people in jobs regardless of how many people are coming in the door. So that's been really fantastic. In terms of the youth and parenting space, they have been coming in. The period that we were talking about in the reporting, so 1st of July to 31st of December, obviously there was a lockdown during that period that really affected things. And what we wanted to be able to do was keep people engaged during that period, because what we learned from the first lockdown is families were saying to us, no, we're okay. You know, we can wait till we come out of lockdown and come back. And we don't think that there's a lot of merit in doing things over the phone or via Zoom. By the time we got to that second lockdown towards the end of 2021, that was quite different, and people were saying, no, absolutely, we want to keep engaged and be seeing you. Yeah, so we got creative, and we found you know, that our young people really responded very well to that, which is good. And we didn't see any drop off of families like we had in the previous lockdowns. Also, the waiting list is still up there. That really doesn't change. We've been managing that through our family finance support team, providing pre-program support for families where there's immediate safety risk, you know, doing sort of whole of whānau goals and things like that, safety planning. Yeah, we've had some good outcomes. I think we've finding, as we have for the last couple of years, that mental health in young people has been more of a significant issue than what we traditionally were seeing around you know, young people at risk acting out and and the violence now is while they are still learning it at home or have been traumatized, the effects of COVID have meant that we're seeing a lot more kids with trauma, but also underlying undiagnosed mental illness, or neurological, lots of neurological conditions, sort of at the ADHD, ASD. And so we've been working with CAFs and the Child Development Unit to have that addressed for families. I'm doing a lot of work with the schools as well around, particular children that are coming through where, they're seeing issues happening within school, and we've been able to go and support them. So Tānui School was one of the ones we worked quite closely with during that period that we've reported on. So it's always a growing, changing, developing program, even though we've been doing it now for 20 odd years. And I think, it's been quite responsive to the change, because it's built to be that way, which is great. Anti-bullying is the other one we've reported on, so that obviously MDC has been funding for many years as well. We decided when the priority grants came out the first time, that we would focus on in-school programs rather than previously we had relied on a group of young people to drive anti-bullying sort of messages and projects around town. We're finding that our young people weren't as available to be able to do that with all the other pressures on them. And we chose to also look at intermediate schools and giving kids some skills around bullying and how to respond to bullying before they get into their high school age group. And that's been incredibly successful. So we've now at the point where we've developed the program, run it out as a pilot, evaluated it, and now it's pretty entrenched in particularly Fielding Intermediate, St Joseph's and North Street, and we're going to Rangatea in term 2 of this year. So our focus now for the next 3 years will be expanding it through as many rural schools as we can get to, who often don't have opportunities to have people come in and do stuff. And interestingly, also picked up. Yeah,
there's a few questions from the floor. Are you happy for me to take those now?
Yep, go.
Sure. Lynn, did you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Kylie.
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, how are you? One of the things that I'd just be really interested to know, the kids that you were mentioning that you're seeing a growing number of children that have undiagnosed or largely undiagnosed ADHD, etc. issues. Do you know if they're enrolled in a general practice, or is there a correlation between this and kids that are unable to get enrolled?
We haven't asked that question directly of people, although I would say from our own standpoint, we have moved into the Fielding area and can't become enrolled because of the demand on the services. I think it's not so much the GPs that are the bottleneck here, it's the CAFs, it's at DHB level.
Yeah, I would just be really interested to know, because children are prioritised for enrolment, and that's where they get, there's a whole heap of mental health services available to children, particularly with ADHD, etc., that can be referred from general practice, and I'd be interested to see if those kids were not able to get enrolled and that's why they were diagnosed, because then they end up.
Yeah, I think there's also.
So if
yeah, there may also be a lack of understanding with families that those services are available. Yeah. And also with schools picking up that there is an issue around neurodivergence and bringing that to parents' attention as well. I think what we find is a lot of parents coming in are struggling with behaviours that they're being told is normal or not happening at school.
Okay.
So it's extremely complex. And I guess sometimes it's not until parents are reaching out to help to other agencies like us who aren't, specifically around mental health, that we then start picking those things up. Where they're looking at it as, I've got a defiant child, or this conflict, or I need more parenting skills. And often parents are told, the child's not the problem, it's your parenting. Try using time out. And those sorts of things. So it's much broader, I think. But certainly there could be some work done to partner with the health centre to maybe get those referrals through quicker, or through the GP rather than going straight to CAFS or child development. If that would work better.
Might have a chat about that offline.
Shane, did you have a question?
Yeah, look, it was just, good questions from Lynn too. G'day, Kylie.
Hey.
Just wanted to reinforce what you're up against. We're seeing that through the youth line as well, similar things. Everything that you're talking about, far more complex issues, families not being able to deal with these complex issues, probably fetal alcohol syndrome as well is probably in there as well through continued alcohol abuse, but that's often hard to detect as well if it's not in the system. So I just really want to just acknowledge your organisation this morning, and certainly want to acknowledge that it's very frontline stuff that you're dealing with. And I think any way that we can sort of help through MDC, the Health Centre, Te Manawa Family Services for our community, including Manchester House, the better. It's more of a coordinated network there. But as always, it's about funding. It's about capability of people as well during these difficult times. And just thanks for everything you're doing, Kylie and the team. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Alison,
I'll just jump in. Sorry, Heather. Thank you, Kylie. I think what your organisation does is incredibly valuable. You are an organisation that works at the bottom of the cliff as much as we like to be at the top of the cliff. And I was sort of just, you said you had quite a waiting list, which, I guess you do anyway, and COVID times must be harder. And I was sort of just wondering whether those were coming through, like the family court and the police. And also I just wanted to ask about when we're in lockdown like we were last year during this recording period, how families are getting on at home, and do you see or hear of an increase of family harm when everyone's stuck at home together?
Yeah, we did. With the family harm does increase during lockdown, and I think, like I said before, the first one in 2020 and then the one in August last year were really different. We experienced it quite differently with our clients in terms of the first one. There was a real pull together mentality, and when we all know that the kindness and the messages that were coming out then, and people ready to do what they needed to do, and then by 18 months later so jaded and really struggling with everything that had happened in that 18 months. So what we found with the first lockdown was a lot of parent-child conflict with teenagers particularly, and the having no ability to get away and get some space, and parents not having the ability to get away and have some space either. So the police call-outs we found between parents and children really spiked during that time, where the second lockdown we didn't see, was an increase, but it wasn't such a marked spike compared to the spike in that intimate partner violence that we were expecting to happen in the first one. So our even though we're very quiet at the moment, and that's really because of Omicron and people's worry about that being out in the community, the spike for us, or the increase in service for us, has come in between those two lockdowns.
And my other question was, is part of your waiting list coming through the police and family court rather than self-referrals?
No, most of it is self-referrals. It's families talking to each other.
Yeah.
And other agencies as well, like Manchester House or other ones that more so in Palmerston North will be other agencies. But in Fielding, it's very much word of mouth and through the schools.
Thank you.
Were there any further questions for Kylie? You didn't have anything further you wanted to add, Kylie? You don't have to.
No, just again, thank you. We appreciate the support that we've had for such a long time, and I hope that we're meeting the expectations of council. I think we are, and we're very passionate about making sure that Manawatu is a safe place to be, and we're such a local initiative that's really expanded over so many years, and that's been with the support of council. So it's great.
Not a problem. The work you're doing is well worth our investment, that's for sure. Well, I believe it is. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, and have a good rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
No problem. Kate, you there online?
Morning, Kate and Chris.
Morning, Kate and Chris. Feel free to talk to us about what Volunteer Central have been up to for the past few months, and then we just ask questions at the end, is sort of how this morning's reporting goes.
Awesome, thanks for the opportunity. I'm the manager of Volunteer Central, and Chris, I can let him introduce himself.
I'm the chairman of the Volunteer Central Board.
So good to have him alongside me this morning. Volunteer Central, over the last reporting period, it'll come out in the next reporting period, that we've changed our name to Whātunga Tuao Volunteer Central, which you'll see up on our background behind us, how to spell it, etc. So we're really pleased to have been able to have all of our marketing material and signage, etc., translated and interpreted into Tadeo, including the strategic plan, which we're really pleased with. As you'll be aware, and probably as most other people have reported, oops, I've disappeared, have reported, the impact of COVID has been fairly significant on events that have been able to be held over in Manawatu. And I mentioned in my report the number of events that we had planned to be at and support that had been cancelled. In saying that, we pivoted and worked with the DHB and then latterly MSD and iwi around the provision of supplies to people isolating with COVID, initially it was people isolating with COVID and their close contacts, but then it changed, of course, with the change of level to just the COVID house and the people in that house. And that's really kept us quite busy over the latter part of last year and the early part of this year.
Well, we were working weekends and
we're still working weekends, public holidays, basically from 7 in the morning till 8 at night, really, is what we're doing. And I just did some calculations yesterday that will be coming out in our newsletter at the end of this week or tomorrow. We've actually just primarily since February travelled the length of the country 10.5 times doing deliveries. And we've had the equivalent of 9.5 full-time employed. If they were paid, they'd be 9.5 full-time employed volunteers. So it's been a significant effort, and we worked with Ngāti Kaupata and Rangatane and other iwi outside of the Manawatu area to see how we could work together on that. So while they're providing their initial responses, they know that we're here if they need any support or need any extra capacity, which is what volunteering's about when it's surge volunteering. We've been doing a lot of work with the Multicultural Centre around making sure migrant and former refugee people's needs are being met, and also with Neavaka from Pacifica. So we've been doing deliveries for them until they had the capacity to be able to pick that up as well. So a lot of our life has been COVIDized. Luckily, we've got away with only one of our staff, and none of our volunteers have received COVID. So we must be doing some good techniques. We're really conscious about trying to get people connected in the community again, and to let people know, you know, we really just have to live with COVID now, and provide opportunities to get people meeting and greeting again is our main focus right at the moment. So you may have seen cuppa and chats advertised over in Fielding. We were able to hold our first one there in February, and it was really awesome that a lady came along. She said that she hadn't left her house for 10 days. She was feeling really down in the dumps, and she saw the ad for the cuppa and a chat and thought, oh, maybe that's a sign, maybe I should go along. So she came along to the cuppa and chat at the library, and from there has ended up with 4 volunteering jobs that are getting her out and about of the house and networking. So it's that ability to provide a safe space for people to be able to come out and look at getting back into the community is a real focus for us at the moment. One of the other things that we didn't have anything to report on in the last period up to December was around the volunteer recognition event, because it's in the second half of your reporting period. But I'm really pleased to say the nominations have closed, and there was 1 nomination from Manawatu last year. This year we've got 15 from Manawatu, which is almost 50% of the nominations received. So that's really awesome that volunteers are being recognised from the Manawatu area. So for all of you that did some pushing on that and trying to get people to nominate the valuable volunteers, it's paid off a bit. If you overtake Palmerston North City Council next year, then maybe we'll have the event in Fielding.
Happy to do that.
Is there anything that you'd like to ask us?
Oh,
Awesome.
Absolutely no one else was asking. Thank you for what you're doing. It sounds like you've really adapted to working under COVID conditions, including becoming deliverers of food and things. Just wondered, have you, there's always people retiring or moving to Fielding. Have you got gaps to fill where, where specific skill sets are required? And, because I often get asked by people, what can they do now they've retired? And just wondered what are the needs out there at the moment?
A lot of the needs are around the befriending side of things and the drive-in side of things, getting people to appointments, but also just having someone to have a cuppa with, or to sit down and play a game of Scrabble, or anything like that, whether that's in the rest homes or in people's own homes through outreach services from Age Concern, etc. But that'd be the 2 main needs at the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
Lynn, did you have your hand up?
Thank you very much. My name's Lynn Daly. Nice to meet you both. I've heard through some very positive stuff through the grapevine from Rangatane and Kowhata, and also the multicultural group in Palmy about the respectful and appropriate way that you have gone about engaging with those groups. And so that's not easy to do, and just want to do a big shout out to you and your organisation for the manner in which you've done that. So thank you.
Great comment, Lynn. I totally agree. If there are no further questions, thank you, Kate and team, for coming on. Really appreciate it. And the work you're doing is not going unnoticed. We're definitely getting some definite big bang for our buck with our investment in your programs.
Thank you for that, and hopefully we'll see some of you at the recognition event on the 10th of June.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Ka kite.
Great. Big morning there, people. I don't need a motion to move that because that was just presentations. So I think that takes us down to we may as well move to item 7.2 on page 15.
Madam Chair, happy to move that recommendation if there's no further discussion or any questions from councillors or officers.
No, and Alison is happy to second that.
Seconding, yep.
All those in favour?
Aye. Actually, that's a good point. Now we've just done that, Madam Chair. Her worship's just disappeared. We don't know where she's gone. We've got a quorum, haven't we? We're okay to go? Yeah.
You certainly do. Your quorum's at 3, so
That's right. Yep.
no one's allowed to leave until we finish.
Awesome. So that moves us on down the agenda. We've done the funding accountability reports. We had SYNCOS left to talk about when it came to our minutes from
relationship.
Yeah, 7.4.
Yep, just going now. Okay.
So I think we talked about most of them. I think we had SYNCOS left to discuss. Councillor Short, did you want to add to that?
I just think that a lot of the comments that we've heard through all the various agencies reporting today, or a lot of those agencies belong to SYNCOS anyway, just about getting the community back on their feet, when we can go out a bit more and things. Winter's coming, inflation's having a big difference. I think and depending what sort of winter weather we get, it could be quite tough for some people going through winter. And it's good that the power subsidy's on and the fuel subsidies on at the moment, but I think both of them have only been guaranteed for 3 months, haven't they? Does that sound right, Lynn? So I think we've just got to watch our community carefully, because I think there's some tough times coming.
Look, I fully endorse that comment from Councillor Short. There's some real concern in the community. And I think, again, it's just been the council just being aware of that and ready to move where we can. Be a bit more sort of proactive as opposed to reactive. And what that looks like through you, Madam Chair, I have no idea. But I think we need to be aware of something. Yeah.
Absolutely, Councillor Casey. I couldn't agree more. I think it's interesting when they all interconnect, particularly around the youth and the fear of COVID and the anxiety that's going on in our community. It definitely all links up. So if you were no further minutes for you to discuss, Jay, would someone like to put the recommendation?
I've got it here in front. If you like, Madam Chair, it's right here, that the reports from community groups for the period 11th of February 2022 to the 15th of April 2022 be received for information.
I'm happy to second that. All those in favour? Carried. So that moves us down to page 66 of our agenda, the schedule of funding applications. Jay, did you want to take this one away?
And through you, Madam Chair, just the report's self-explanatory, but just to highlight at 3.4, we received a total of 5 applications during the period. 3 were representative fund grants, 2 were for events fund applications. And we also received a further event fund application, which the General Manager Community under her delegated authority approved. You may recall that the Manawatu Business Chamber came and presented to Council at a public forum a couple of council meetings ago, seeking sponsorship towards the 2022 Manawatu Business Awards, which of course that has been approved, and we've been able to fund it through the event fund. But it's also meant that the Manawatu District Council has secured a wonderful award to be able to give out on that night. And I think from memory, could correct me, Lynn, I think it's the Manawatu Spiritual Award, is it? Or Spirit?
Yeah, the Spirit of Manawatu Award is what our council is going to be the main sponsor of. And so that is the Manawatu region, obviously, not just the district council area. So we thought it was important that we sponsored that, because there were some others that were interested in sponsoring that.
Absolutely, it seems fitting that we do that, so good choice there, Lynn. If there were no further questions, I think the report is fairly self-explanatory. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Short.
And I'm happy to second that, Madam Chair.
Did you want me to read the resolution for that one? Or, yeah, I'm juggling. I can't find which page it was on.
No, it's okay. You don't need to if you don't want to.
66.
And Councillor Casey was the seconder.
Yeah, I have found it. So, yeah. But I'm happy not to read it.
Cool. So Councillor Short moved, Councillor Casey seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried.
Okay then.
Fantastic. And that is our meeting come to a close at 11:17 a.m.
Oh,
Work, everyone. Well done.
Yes.
Good work, Jay.
Can we stop recording for a minute?